My name is Kerrie, and my goal is to inspire healing and meaning in all areas of life. In this podcast, we will dive deep into conversations. From heartbreak to freedom, we will explore different self-care modalities, learn to be the best expressions of ourselves, and to live with purpose. I'm here to offer my personal insights and to share my story in hopes that it will guide you on your path. This is Heal with Care, a journey of self-discovery. I have been quiet and mostly shy for most of my life. I tend to avoid confrontation, and in many ways, I'm still learning to express my feelings and let others know when something isn't working for me. Often, I catch myself making excuses to avoid situations rather than being honest. Why? Probably because deep down, I've believed that the truth might not be good enough, and I was taught that if I don't have anything nice to say, that I shouldn't say it. Through my past experiences, I found it much easier to see people happy just to keep the peace rather than to have an awkward conversation about it. But in the process, I found myself starting to just nod and agree to things that I believed other people wanted to hear. I was now so accustomed to pleasing others that I realized that I lost my voice and was no longer valuing my own opinions. When it comes to being honest or wanting to express myself, I find myself shutting down and unable to get the words out, especially when I'm caught off guard. What I realize is that by staying silent for a long period of time creates this buildup where I know that one day I won't be able to contain myself. There is this saying that the truth will eventually come out, or the truth will set you free. And in this case, I feel like that is referring to my inner truth. And I'm not saying to always just say that your truth is always what you need to go by, but I believe that there needs to be a balance and there's going to be some give and take. We just need to define for ourselves what that is. I have had so many experiences and situations that have repeatedly come up for me. This made me realize that people were constantly crossing my boundaries. And this is because I had never taken the time to clearly define what my boundaries are. And without that clarity, it was easy for people to push past my limits. And then it became harder for me to push back and to hold my ground. I have noticed that the universe has a way of presenting me with experiences that teach me important lessons. And one lesson that I'm working through is learning to speak up for myself. I haven't fully mastered this lesson yet, but in the past, I was often bullied and taken advantage of. If there was a conflict, I would always be the first to give in, or I would take the hit just so that I can keep the peace. In many ways, I sacrificed my own needs over others. And over time, I realized that there needs to be a balance. I can give to others, but in return, I need to also be open to receiving. I can't just give all the time, and that is one reason why I tend to give away a lot of my energy and then I feel energetically drained. What I need to do is stand in my boundaries and have a clear understanding of what my values are. And without knowing what I truly stand for, it's hard to set and maintain my boundaries. My podcast tagline is a journey of self-discovery. And in this episode, I want to share how I was able to uncover another layer of myself by getting clear on my values and knowing what my boundaries are. So this past summer was challenging for me as I tried to offer my healing services in person in the small town that I moved to. I encountered so much resistance that I decided to take my business online. While I haven't given up on offering in person sessions here, I wanted to share one of the biggest lessons I learned through this experience. When I moved to this town, I had an upbeat and positive attitude. I was really excited, though a bit naive about what I was up against. Everyone I met in passing seemed so wonderful, and I thought they were all super sweet. I was eager to get involved with the community. I had met someone at an event and we exchanged stories and what we were planning to do with our businesses. We met a couple times for walks, had casual conversations, and shared our business ventures, encouraging each other along the way. I was so excited about my new venture that I overlooked the energy that was around me. As this new girl in a small town, I quickly realized everyone already knew each other and there was a lot of gossip and drama. I began to hear the inside scoop on different people in the community, and during this time, I chose to keep a lot to myself, relying on my own discernment as I navigated around the community, doing my best to stay open minded and not be influenced by everyone else around me. At one point, this person invited me to join their business venture. I was so excited, and without thinking about my values, I agreed. What I didn't realize at the time was that during most of our conversation, I was walking in silence, simply nodding and agreeing to everything they said. I realized I rarely had the chance to even share my own thoughts and opinions. This person had a very strong personality, and as time passed, I was starting to notice that my energy levels were starting to dip. I was struggling to find the motivation for what seemed like a great idea. And when I tried to work out the logistics of our business venture so that it made sense in my mind, I found myself being manipulated into thinking that I was incompetent. Every question I was asking or every suggestion I was making was getting frowned upon. And it was implied that because I was from this town, I didn't know anything. And at one point, I noticed a shift in their energy. And in these moments, I knew that something was off. I tried to make peace with the situation as per usual, even though deep down I knew that this was no longer feeling aligned with me. And as someone who has done a lot of intuitive work, I can feel that something was very wrong. Gathering my courage, I attempted to confront this person a few days later, struggling to find the words to express myself, but because they were such a confident speaker, in return, they used their words in a way that would slowly chip away at my confidence. Every time I tried to gain clarity of the situation or try to view things from their perspective, I would instantly feel resistance. I did my best to stay strong, fighting back the tears as they spoke to me, but the emotional toll was too much for me to handle. I was being manipulated to the point where I began to question who I was, thinking that there was something utterly wrong with me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The energy and the words that they had used that day ate away at me. I was feeling exhausted and emotionally drained. I decided that it would be best if I just ended things. I decided I was going to call them first thing in the morning and I was going to walk away from this situation. When I finally made that call, I tried to express myself, but after a week of being overpowered by their abrasiveness, I found myself at a loss for words. I was overwhelmed by emotion and physical exhaustion. I ended up responding in a direct and blunt manner, mirroring their personality. At that moment, the tables were turned. It didn't go over well. They lashed out at me with their final words, hung up the phone, and blocked me on every platform possible. Since then, I had to give myself a lot of space to think, reflect, and process. I questioned everything I thought I knew about myself. Was I not a good person? Could I have handled things differently? These questions swirled around in my mind, leaving me at a standstill. In many ways, I had to grieve this situation, and I had cried for days. I had tried to see things from all angles, doing my best to approach the situation differently, but every attempt was met with resistance. Part of me wishes I had recognized this sooner, but maybe this was the universe testing me, challenging me to stand up for myself, to decide whether or not I was going to tolerate being treated this way or to speak up. I wish neither of us had been hurt in this situation, but that's how it unfolded. Now I have to accept it for what it was. I had to find the compassion for them and the trauma that they carry, and I'm learning to have compassion for myself as well. Enough compassion that I do not let this experience silence me or scare me from using my voice in the future. Since that day, I've had to pick myself up and get clear on what truly matters to me. It's unfortunate that it took such a drastic situation for me to realize my values. I started by writing a list of core values, things like being authentic, aligned, having respect, making meaningful connections, and being inclusive. For each value, I wrote statements outlining what it is that I honor and what I will no longer accept. These statements became my guide, a clear reminder of who I am and what I stand for. While I know my values may evolve over time, they provide me with a strong foundation to help me ground and align with my true self. So if you're feeling pushed around or uncertain about why certain situations bother you, I encourage you to try listing your values. Include in those values what your boundaries are, include what you will no longer tolerate, but allow for flexibility and start building the courage to speak up when you notice that someone is crossing the line. If there is one thing I hope that you take from this, it's the importance of honoring your values and trusting yourself, even when it means making a difficult decision. Life has a way of testing us, but those challenges can help us grow stronger and more aligned. Remember, your voice matters, and staying true to yourself is one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you found this episode insightful. If you feel called to, please share this podcast, subscribe to it, and leave a rating and review. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email me at healwithcare@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at healwithcare. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.